Hey everybody, Orange Podcast Bad, episode 17. Some people call it Cinco de Mayo. The Pueblas would call it the Battle of Puebla, and they will remember that in Mexico, and that's what this day is all about. So the Battle of Puebla, May 5th, 1862, was a victory over the French. And it was a day that the Mexicans look as of their perseverance, and that's a good thing. So again, May 5th, 1862, Battle of Puebla. It's look, we'll get into it later, but well, here's what it is. It was a celebration of a victory in a battle. Mexico did not win their independence this day. They actually won that on September 16th. Here's why Mexico was fighting the French, the Spanish, and the Brits is because they had defaulted on debt. These colonies, or sorry, the Mexico had defaulted on debt because they took on a massive amount of debt from Britain, Spain, and France. Uh, for whatever reason, they did it. Like any other country takes on debt, America has taken on what are we at? $5 gazillion in debt right now to expand their empire, do whatever they want to do. Build dirt roads, 1862. I mean, you're building dirt roads. So what's the damn point? Here, listen. This day was about a day of victory for them, winning a battle against the French. Even though Mexico owed a ton of money, like I said, to Spain, Britain, and France. Uh, and over time, they were able to overthrow all of this. This is much later than the American Revolution, and it's really interesting to me that we all of a sudden have turned this into some sort of bigger holiday because it's not Independence Day for Mexico. It's a victory of a battle, and that's good, very good. Uh, Listen, Americans turn everything into a drinking holiday, and so here we are, Cinco de Mayo. Uh, More correctly, hi Cass. Thanks for joining. You'll have to go ahead and unmute and turn your camera on. More correctly, today's the celebration or the commemoration of the Battle of Puebla. And in Mexico, Pueblans, the town of Puebla, which happens to be about, I don't know, 100 miles south of Mexico City, that's where it was typically celebrated. And all of a sudden, Americans turn everything into drinking holidays. So we have Cinco de Mayo here in the United States, and that's what they do. What's up, Cass? How you doing?
I'm trying to count how many times you say Cinco de Mayo. That's how many shots I have to do.
I Not very many because it's Battle of Puebla Day.
But it's close to Cinco de Mayo. All I know is we get chips and salsa. It's like St. Patrick's Day. That's
Dude,
it.
yes, it's exactly like St. Patrick's Day, which again has nothing to do with a saint or a dude named Patrick who became a missionary after he was a slave for 7 years as a child in Ireland. Oh yeah, yeah, I already did
He
one on
wasn't even
that one.
Irish. He wasn't even
What?
Irish. He
No,
wasn't
he
even Irish.
wasn't Irish. He was most likely Scottish. Yeah, yeah. No, Americans just turned everything into a drinking holiday, and I don't have a problem with that. Go have a good time. But the history of the story is this was about the Battle of Puebla. It's not even. A lot of people will say it's not. It's Mexican Independence Day. No, that happens to be on September 16th. Good to see you, friend.
Good to see you too. I don't know why my camera quality is so terrible. Maybe it's just me.
Could be the lighting. Who knows?
Yeah, they got me in a corner here. I'm like a mushroom. They keep me in the dark and keep feeding me shit.
Oh, Jesus. All right, there we go. We got that's better.
That's
That's
better.
better.
I don't have
Yeah.
an office yet right now, so I'm hanging out in my bedroom in my stand up chair. That means I don't have a chair. I'm standing up.
You're right on. Well, so as we start doing more podcasting, I'm sure you're gonna get more cool stuff. Like, see how I got the microphone, and I got a camera back here, and I got a halo light. Dude, it was all super cheap.
Oh, I can't. I have a microphone. It's like this. It's this big. I was told size matters, so I don't use it anymore.
So I believe Paul is cut under a thunderstorm. He might join us soon.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope. And listen, thunderstorms in East Texas are no joke. He did send a message. He said, "I'm caught in the barn. It's gonna take me a few minutes, but if he can join us, that'd be awesome. But I'm glad you were able to join us. What a wild week! What a wild week. So, yeah, Cinco de Mayo doesn't mean what everyone thinks it means. But listen, Rwanda. Have you heard this stuff, Cass? Rwanda is trying to make deals with the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, to take in prisoners, like illegals from the United States. They're trying to get on board because they want that payment. And like, because we're already sending them to El Salvador, we're already sending them. But they're like, yeah,
Hey,
we want in. We
so
want. We want.
Rwanda wants us to go collect their citizens and send them back.
Even better, they tried to make a deal with Britain, and
Okay.
Britain caved on it because obviously they're pro Islam, pro illegal immigration. That the country's falling, and Britain finally said no. Well, they've reached out to Marco Rubio and said, "Hey, we'll take him." Here's what they said though: "We believe in second chances." Could you imagine sending the worst people on earth to Rwanda that doesn't have a prison to hold them,
Hmm,
and
hmm.
their country, for whatever good qualities it does have, it's an African country, just being decimated by taking in the worst of the worst sent out by America?
Why don't we do that with Haiti? Isn't that what happened to Haiti? They closed. They emptied all the prisons, and now there's just chaos on the island.
Oh, Haiti's an awful, awful spot. Absolutely. Hey, Paul, what's up? How you doing? We'll,
Good,
we'll,
man.
we'll
Good.
tr- we don't even need to catch you up. We'll just keep having the conversation. Glad to see you. Hopefully, the storm's passing. I can at least ask that,
Yeah,
right?
it's we were on generator power for a little bit, so it's calming down now and the
Oh,
generator shut off,
man.
so we're back on electric.
Oh, and now you're trying to figure out that 12 o'clock flash thing. I got you.
Yeah. Yeah. All
well,
the
Paul,
stove and the coffee maker and the alarm clock and the nightstand and yeah.
dude, it's your VCR. That's the worst part. It's
Yeah.
flashing. 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock. Oh, man. Hopefully, one of your kids can run by and reprogram that for you.
I already texted them.
I know you had plans to watch Top Gun tonight on Betamax.
Yeah.
Top Gun.
Hey,
Yeah, I wasn't.
Paul, does Rwanda have any prisons?
Does what?
Rwanda?
Yeah.
East Africa have any prisons?
Yes.
Do they have prisons that could hold international terror members?
They would not want to be there, but yes, Rwanda has prisons like you would not ever want to experience.
So Rwanda, we were just talking. Rwanda's they already tried to make a play with Britain about this mass migration and the mass deportations, and Britain failed. They said, no, 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 no. We wanted to do it, but no, we're not going to do this. And now they're flirting with Secretary Marco Rubio and saying, "Hey, well, you don't have to send everybody to El Salvador. You could send some to us." Is this a plausible thing or no?
Oh, 100% it is, Sean. Yeah. So what Rwanda and others, I think Liberia, if it comes down to it, would also be on board with this. Uh, Ivory Coast, they all have huge prison systems, because since the 70s, when they've tried to turn democratic, their response to any kind of back talk or pushback or anything like that was to imprison people. So they've taken all the U.S. money they've got and put it in the prison system, because they're like, yeah, fuck you, we're just going to lock you up. We're not putting up with your shit. And so I think Rwanda, Liberia, like I said, make to a lesser degree the Ivory Coast, uh, because they're so much smaller, but they all have, uh, state of the art Civil War era prisons. that that if you got sent there, you were like, please God, send me to El Salvador. you know, because there, if you don't grow your own food, or if you don't have people bringing you food, you're not eating, because they don't have a third party vendor doing 3 meals a day. They don't have any of that shit. They've
Well, so
got
all
bamboo
right.
poles that they whip you with if you open your mouth. So that's it.
Well, so here's my question. So it's at a level far lower than Alcatraz. We'll get into that. It Do they have the ability to keep them there and not get they don't escape? Like, because that's going to be
Oh
my
yeah. Oh,
ultimate
so
question.
100%. So the reason those African countries are so good, or like an untapped resource, is that they have the I don't give a you know way of doing things. You break out, or you escape, or you raise too much hell, they'll kill you.
Okay.
They'll just kill you. They don't care. And they're
So
not accountable, and they don't it's just that's just the way it is.
So when we're looking at places like El Salvador, and lots of other places, El Salvador's already on board, and they've got a magnificent prison system. Is this something we should be looking at in addition, or should we be looking to do what Trump said and let's rebuild Alcatraz? Let's just let's just rebuild it.
So so first of all, I would say I love that idea. I simply love that idea, just because of the message it's going to send. Machine Gun Kelly, Al Capone,
Yep.
those guys were there, and this is going to be the shining light on the hill for for prisoners and stuff. This is going to be the play, and it's not going to. He's not asking the Department of Prisons to build a state of the art facility like like has been done everywhere, where you got three hots and a cot and a TV and all,
Ah,
you got a day room and all that stuff. He's not talking about that. He's talking about taking a Brillo pad, scratching off some of the peeled paint, respraying it, and putting people in there.
Yeah. So
And I've been there. I took the tour there, and it's cold and wet and dank all the time. And you know, I could. There's a couple of prisons in Bosnia that are down in caves, literally underground in caves. That if Bosnia wanted to get on board, hey, 2,500 a prisoner, yeah, we'll take them because we could do it for $17 per person, and if we got that return on investment,
so do you think this is Trump being the ultimate troll and
a
shipping
hundred
some of these
percent, Cass,
keeping
yeah,
some of these people off, and then now they're going to go, you can't do that. You have to keep them here, and then we just send them to Gitmo or something
yeah, absolutely, 100%, yeah.
because
He's
nobody's going to
trolling
complain
the
about
shit out.
Gitmo.
Yeah, it's the making Canada the 51st state. It's that kind of troll.
Whoa, part of Canada is already looking at that. I heard that part of them wants to break off from Cananistan and become, um, but there's a
Yeah,
lot.
Alberta's already said it. Yeah,
Yep, yep.
Well,
So
so Paul, one of the other things with I've seen a lot of people get all hopped up about we can send Fauci there, we can send Schiff there, uh, because that would actually be in an American prison if they were found guilty of something. We all have our thoughts on what they might be found guilty of. Whereas Club Gitmo is meant for international terrorists, and
yeah,
that's why it's placed outside of the United States.
that's correct. Yeah.
And
So
that's why.
Gitmo, just so you understand, Gitmo is a standalone. If they did a deal with Rwanda or Liberia or any of those things, it would be similar to what they did with El Salvador. They made a per head. We will pay you per head for holding these people.
Well, the other thing is that
And,
they are not American citizens. None of them that go to Club Gitmo or go to El Salvador. This would be on American territory as a federal penitentiary. And so potentially the ones that like you see on social media all the time, send Schiff to Club Gitmo. Well, you can't
you
constitutionally
can't
do that.
constitutionally, you can't. But you know where you could send him? You could send him to the federal prison that we have in the Philippines. That is, it's absolutely one of the worst prisons ever invented, ever. It's horrific, but it's an American territory, and yeah, and we could send Schiff there. Be careful what you wish for, bruh.
Well, which is why I find also bringing Alcatraz back online so fascinating. And you've been there, right? So half the island is housing,
Yep,
with the the warden's house, and then all of the dormitory style housing for
yep,
all of the people that work there because it just wasn't efficient to ferry them on and off. It's a 15-minute boat ride
yep.
from shore, and they
And it's freezing, dude.
freezing.
I wanted, so when we were going out there, Tanya and I wanted to go to the front of the boat, so we could see. You know what I mean? And everybody else was in the back. Well, apparently everybody else had been there before, and that's why they were in the back. And we're up front. And as soon as we pulled out of the dock, I was regretting all of my decisions, going, Jesus, God, my eyebrows are melting together. It was it was terrible, dude.
I've
And
been on that cruise.
Tanya's like hitting me, going, "What the hell were you thinking?"
I've been on that cruise several times. The only thing worse, I think, is that stupid double decker bus when you're going across the Golden Gate, because that thing
Oh
is.
yeah, and you want to get on top in the open air thing? Yeah, you're like,
So, Cass, you took the tour.
I
What
lived around the corner. I took the
Oh yeah,
tour a
yeah.
couple times. There's a bunch of times I didn't even pay for the tour because I knew the people that were there. I would just go
Oh,
on the
nice,
tour and hang
really?
out. Yeah,
What's your thoughts on the actual tour and its historical value, and is it worth it? Like a lot of people are saying it's the coolest tour you could possibly take
it
in
it is.
NorCal.
It is. There's a lot of stuff that goes along with it. There's also probably because if you only went for the day, you're not going to see a lot of this. But they have other tours on there. They're like ghost tours where you actually go through Alcatraz and you can see where Machine Gun Kelly was housed. You can see where the Birdman was housed. You can
Yeah,
see where all Capone was, and they've got all this. But that place is really super freaky. You don't gotta believe in ghosts or anything like that. You go to this place and you're like, nope, they're there. I know it. You hear stuff and you see stuff when you
yeah.
go into there. It's not a happy place. And here's the other thing: is, I mean, if anybody's been to a jail, like a real jail, not or like a prison, when you go into a prison, whether for work or whatever, there is a gloom that comes over you, and when you
Yeah.
leave the prison, you feel a relief, and there's a relief that comes out because you're not in there. And I think it's all the people in there that have that vibe. When you go to Alcatraz, you've got tour guides and everything, and it is a dark, dark,
And you
heavy
still
cloud
that's right,
there.
you still feel very intimidated. When I was there, I was it was very intimidating looking at the conditions and the cells and like you said, Cass, they, here Machine Gun Kelly was here, and this is Capone's cell, and that kind of stuff. And you were like, for me, I was like meekly saying, "Oh wow, can we move along now? Because I don't want to be in this open airway much longer. Can we just get down to the other end? Can we just get down to the other, you know?
Well, then,
I mean, even the barracks where the employees stayed and stuff, it was creepy AF, dude. It was creepy. And I'm like, man, so you imagine a guy, in 1963, making $600 a month as a jail guard. He's married, got kids back on the mainland, but for his 2-week tour, he's staying in this housing, and it was like, the housing was not much better than the jail cells. It was just, and it creeped me the hell out. It really did.
So that, from what I understand of it, it's dorm style with a communal like shower and bathroom. You have a door you can close, and the door and the employee housing, and that's about all
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
human
It's
luxuries you got.
just like the military. Yeah, you've
yeah.
got your own dorm room, but when you shower, you go down and there's 15 shower heads down there, and you and all your bubbas are down there taking a shower, taking a shit, shaving. You know,
So
yeah,
what if we make that a Trump Tower resort in gold for the employees and maintain the prison? All we do is shave all the old paint off, throw up new paint, and start over and reopen the prison.
So
So
is there
I so my feeling on that is if if Alcatraz is to be successful, do not put it out to a third party vendor that runs prisons. Have them be DOJ. I don't. What do you think, Kit?
The-
I don't know what it would fall under, but have
well,
them be DOJ employees or Department of Prison employee, or you know what I mean. Don't put it out to Bob's Prison Services, and that kind of thing.
I
So
yeah, I think in order for it to work, you've got to keep it pretty much like it was. No Wi-Fi, no nothing, so people can't get
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
And there's one thing you said: make the a Trump style hotel for the people that are working there, but that's not even going to work. That place is cold. They I saw the movie The Birdman of Alcatraz when I was a little kid, and they had this guy, and he was lucky because he had a window that he could see out of. No, that window is cold. Everything there is cold. If there is a crack, you're going to feel the cold come in.
yeah.
The it is cold in the summer there. It is like
It
ice
really is.
cold in the summer.
Yeah. So we went when Tanya and I went. It was September, and it was biting. I mean, it was. I was wearing a flannel in San Francisco, and I was fine. But once we went out to Alcatraz, I was freezing my ass off, dude. It was cold, not just chilly. It was cold.
That's so there's if you're on Alcatraz, there is no comfort. Like when you go, you go skiing for the day, and you're cold and you're wet, and you come in and you have a snort of some adult beverage, whatever it is, whiskey, peppermint patty, I don't know, I don't care, whatever you got, and that'll take the edge off, right? And then you go into your hotel room and your lodge, and you sit by the fire and you get warm, and it warms your bones up. That
Hmm.
never happens on Alcatraz. That bone chill is always there. It's never
Yep.
gone. And
Yep.
I've talked to people that some of the tour guides, and I've talked to some guards that were actually stationed out there. I don't think they're alive anymore, but some of the guards that were actually stationed out there with people like Al Capone, and they said that
Uh-oh. I lost him.
Vapor
oh,
lock.
paper lock.
Yep.
Am I there?
Yeah, I
Can you hear
got
me?
you now.
Okay.
So
So
they
a lot of
said,
so a lot of the guys wouldn't even shower, like the guards wouldn't shower there, because not because of the communal shower, because it was so freaking cold. If you got wet, you just weren't going to get warm again for a long time. So there's a lot of stuff out there that, yeah, turn it into a place like that. It's not going to be a happy place. And oh, you're in San Francisco, you got a view, whatever. It's cold and you don't want to look at it.
well, this is so I want the Federal Prisons Bureau, not a contracted group, Paul. I want the Federal Prisons Bureau to at least have some sort of luxuries of home while they're there. And that's why I'm saying build a Trump Tower style hotel. I'm not saying have windows open. I'm saying give them hot showers, give them meal service while they're there for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
My question
have a room en suite with their own shower.
own shower, own
Yeah, they got a
bathroom,
microwave or whatever,
TV,
plus
Trump
a
internet.
cafeteria.
Oh,
No, I
even
got you. Yeah,
let's make everyone even more mad. We'll give them Starlink internet
yeah.
so
in the
so
Trump Tower.
once you give them Starlink, then you run into the problem with all the other prisons where all of
I'm
a
not
sudden,
talking about the prisoners. I'm
no, no, I
talking
know we're
about the
talking about the guards, but if you
okay.
get that, the guards now have it. How much are they going to pay? How much are they going to withhold before they're getting anything? I think if you're on that island, they pay you well, and you don't get a lot of the luxuries that you are when you're there. You don't get to take a cell phone with you so you can call your family. You're done. You're there for a week, and you're staying there for a week, and that's it. And that's what it needs to be, because that's the only way you're going to control what comes in and what goes out.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
in prisons, you will get anything you want. In fact, I talked to some people. I know people, and some of the people go, "Oh, you get the good drugs in prison." And I know somebody who's got a Facebook account, and he's still in fucking prison, and he's on
Oh
Facebook
yeah.
daily.
Oh
And
yeah.
how do you do that? You got phones, you got all this other stuff that's going on. These guys get that stuff.
It's kind of, Cass. It's kind of like the oil rig guys out in the Gulf. They go out for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
They got barracks, for lack of a better term. They got barracks and stuff, but it's not high living. And that's why they get 80, 90,000 a year
exactly.
because they're out there and they don't have all of the niceties of home.
I mean, look, I was at home when I was a lineman, and I'd be on call for a week. I was at home for a week, and I still wasn't at home. If you were going to pay me that amount of money to go to an island, be miserable for a week, and then come back and be with my family for a week, I'd have jumped on that in a heartbeat. You don't need the creature comforts while you're there. You're there to work, and that's it. You're there to do a job. Do your job. You do what you're going to do, and then be done with it. Um,
So when you were a lineman, and let's say there was, you got marshaled or deployed or whatever, but
You got a
a
call. Yeah.
deployment and stuff, right? So you're away from home for X amount of weeks.
No, so that's different. So if I leave and I go someplace, I would leave home and I would go someplace, and then you're not on call. You're just out working for like 12, 13 hours, like when they had the floods in
Yeah,
Houston, right? So you go there, you work 12, 14 hours, then you come home and you do what you're going to do in your hotel room, get something to eat, take a shower, and then go back out. Well, I'm talking about when I'm just at home and there's storm time. I might come home. There's times where I've literally not been home for like 24 hours, and I pull up into my house in front of my driveway, and I'm getting ready to back in, and all of a sudden you get another call, and it's like you just kind of wave at the family and you leave again because you're working. So when you're on call, even when you're home, you're not home because you're just there. Sometimes I would sleep with my boots on because you know that thing. As soon as you take your boots off, you're going to get called out, and sometimes I
you're
just
gonna get called. Yeah, right.
and I would just sleep with my boots on, and it would save me like when I did get called out, it saved me 15 minutes of having to put my boots back on. So sometimes I would go home, shower, put my boots right back on because I knew I was going to go out. But that's just there. If you're going to be on, if they're going to pay you a lot of money to be a guard, you don't get those creature comforts. You know that going in, you're going to get paid better, and that's what they need to do to keep it away from what they did. They've got to be able to see
Exactly.
everything that
Yeah.
you have. You come on, you've got your keys to your car, you've got those little personal belongings, and you go to your room. You don't have a bag that they have to go through because that's when you're going to get a bunch of stuff that you're not supposed to have.
Well,
So one of the contracts we had in the Carolinas after the hurricanes was I don't remember the name of the power company, but
Duke.
one of the yeah Duke or whatever we had built camps, so they weren't staying in hotels. We were building man camps for the guys that were putting the power back on and all that kind of stuff. So we had a DFAC, which was a big tent that had a kitchen in it, and then we didn't we had some hard sided uh, containers that were for management level. But the other guys, the linemen, the guys like you that are on the ground doing the work, you know, we just had these white tents, that had 20 people in a bay, and you had a cot and a foot locker, and
Well,
that was it.
so Paul, like if people who are old enough, and most of the people who watch our show would be old enough, this looks like the setup of MASH 4077.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
Exactly right.
I was the guy that was there before. For some reason that was always my job. I would be there when Paul was setting up. I was the guy setting up the communications. I was the guy setting up the fiber. I was the guy making sure everybody. So when Paul's company setting up camp, I'm working with Paul's company and he's saying, I need this over here. I need this over here. My job's to make sure that all of the people that are coming in after me are going to be able to. So when Paul went in, I took my own tents, I took my own bags, and
Yep.
I brought my own set of dry food because I knew there may be days where I wasn't going to be able to eat anything. And
Right. Exactly right. Yeah.
you take a couple of sandwiches that you don't make or you don't have. Those get eaten in the first few days because they're going to go bad. So if I'm there for a week, I'm there setting up, and by the time everything's set up, where they actually have hot water and they have all the tents set up for all of the cool linemen that are going to do all the work and get all the glory, that's when I would leave and come home. I would do the setup. So, and it doesn't take a week. It takes like 3 or 4 days once you get everything
Yeah.
going.
Well,
Yeah.
And
so to circle back Alcatraz, what you're saying, Cass, is the men and women who are going to serve there under the Bureau of Federal Prisons don't necessarily need to be comfortable. They need to be more comfortable than the inmates. But this, we should also maybe pay them at a much higher level than we would as a federal prison that's like housing Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah,
That's a super
so
low.
so the
Uh,
government has what's called post and hazard pay. So that usually historically applied to uh, you're a lineman or a prison guard, but you're in Iraq. Your base salary is $70,000 a year, but we're going to pay you post and hazard because of where you are. And so I envision that's what it would be at Alcatraz, because you're not in a normal prison facility, you're out there on this. So you would get uh, extra pay for being at Alcatraz in a what the government calls austere conditions.
okay.
And so that gives you another 15 or 20% on top of your salary. So let's say you're a prison guard at, uh, Bakersfield in Texas, and you apply for the job at Alcatraz. Well, you're making 68,000 as a regular guard at Baker's, and so these guys are going to plus you up to 90 to maybe even 100 grand to be uh, deployed to Alcatraz.
Yeah, except you're going to need to bump that up because it's California, and 90 grand here is what teachers make.
And I would guess the
Yeah. Oh, good
I would
point. Yeah, that's a good point, Kes. Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
would guess so. Terre Haute, Indiana has a federal penitentiary that's got you like you could drive by it, but that's where the execution of the Unabomber Timothy McVeigh was conducted. This is a hardcore Supermax in Terre Haute, Indiana, of all places. Right, but they have the creature comforts of being able to go home after their 12-hour shift. When we're talking with this with Alcatraz, you're talking about what a full week on duty, week off, week on, week on. Like that's what you would
Like
I'd
envision.
say
like
two
10
weeks
days.
on, 2 weeks off, 12-hour shifts, and you're either day shift or night shift. And if you're 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. or you're 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And so the night shift guys get what, Kess, another 3 to 5% for night shift, something
Exactly.
like that.
Yeah, something
Yeah,
like that. I mean,
yeah.
but so I mean, if you're going to get paid enough, look, there was a job I was going to do, but I didn't because I'm claustrophobic. But they were going to put me in a sub, and I was going to be splicing fiber, um, on the going across the Atlantic. They were going to be doing a whole nother fiber thing because the old one's falling apart. It's only what 30, 40 years old, so they're always doing this now. And they were going to put me in a sub, and they were going to pay me a ridiculous amount of money to sit there, and I would work literally just pretty much until my contract was up for that short time. It's a renewable contract every week because I guess a lot of people don't come back after that because you're in
Did
a
you get
sub.
a completion bonus?
Yeah, yeah. There's so it's like 10 days. So you go for 10 days, and it's you're basically renewing the contract every time. So it's not a huge bonus, but you go for 10 days and you go sit at the bottom of the ocean and you splice for 12 hours a day. You're splicing fiber, you're doing all this, and then you get to go relax. Then you go back and then you start splicing. And a lot of guys just splice all the time because it makes the time go by because there's no daylight, there's no anything, but they pay you a ridiculous amount of money to live underwater and splice this fiber in a submarine that's basically they bring it in, you splice it, and then they drop it out. It's a weird little thing, uh, but it's a lot of money. So that's what they do for Alcatraz. They just pay them a ridiculous amount of money to
Right,
follow the rules and to be fucking miserable on
right.
your your 10 to 14
Yeah.
days, you're half a month there, and you make all
Yeah.
this other money, and the rest of your time you're free.
Yeah.
You get to do whatever you want, and then you've got to report back into work, and you boom right there, and then you have to get
Yep.
it. But the reason I think it should be like that also is because I don't want any joy in there. The people that go there are going to be the worst people. You don't want Bob coming home and talking to Capone about his wife and his kids. No, you want him to be miserable. And I don't want it like this, but you want him to have a certain amount of always on the job and have no real communication. Don't give him any information. Don't talk to him. Just look, I'm here to do my job, and that's all. And they're cattle. And that's what they should be, because they're going to be the worst of the worst. Stick them there. Or, or we just keep sending them to Rwanda, and I guess if they get too expensive, then they just get rid of the problem.
Dude, Rwanda's gonna be cheap. And that's what, like, so all the fiscal conservatives that came up about Alcatraz, this is gonna be ridiculous. This is stupid. Why would we spend all this money? And I just said, listen, okay. Are you gonna be upset if we send them to Rwanda? Are you gonna be
So,
upset?
so Sean, are you saying you're not on board to recycling Alcatraz?
No, I actually like the idea better. For the worst of the worst, I want to put them here in the United States, and I want them to suffer the the bay's cold temperatures and deal with that. And now listening to Cass, I also understand he's trying to put a mode of operation into the employees that know if you're going to get all this high pay, because this will be the top of the top of federal prisons, and with the bureau paying out you the top of the top, you don't even get to take your cell phone with you for your week of service. You don't
Right.
get access to TV, and now that makes more sense, because now I can't be friendly with a prisoner. I can't give them information. I can't accidentally slide my
Yeah,
cell
all that
phone.
is removed. That's all removed. Yeah.
I can't bring them in drugs in my butthole. I can't do it like that. Like, this has to be the top of the top. Listen, I know it sounds funny, Paul, and that's hilarious that you said that. But I listen. There was a lady I used to hang out with who was a sergeant with the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Did a lot of work in Michigan, did some work in New York, and she's like, you wouldn't believe what some of these prison guards would do, because they would fall in love, and not maybe romantically. They would fall in love with the idea of the prisoner who was in, and they would get indoctrinated, and they would fall into a belief system of it, and they would do the most amazing things to help a prisoner. So yeah.
So, so sorry, Kes. I just want to say this. I'll tell you something. Um, I was on a DEA FBI narcotics task force in South Florida for years. And one of the things that I caught was, because I was a motorcycle rider, I got I got elected to work the Florida Outlaws. And so I went undercover with the Florida Outlaws, and so I'm what they call a hang around. I got no bona fides or anything with them. I was just to hang around. I befriended a couple of the guys, and when they would have, meetings at bars and stuff, they were like, "Yeah, Paul's okay. I could go in and do that kind of thing." So, um, what ended up happening was, I, after 2 or 3, probably 2 years, not 3, but 2 years of hanging out with outlaws every day, all day, I was like, you know what? These fuckers ain't so bad. They're trying to make a living like everybody else, and that was wrong think. I'm law enforcement. I'm a narcotics investigator. That is not what you're supposed to think. You know what I mean? So, you know, it got to the point where I said, I I need to step away because I'm sitting at a bar next to a guy that just sold 13 keys of coke in Florida, you know, and he and I are like, "Hey, sup, bro? What are you doing today? Hey, man, can I buy you a beer?" That kind of thing. And so I recognized that and said, "Yeah, I gotta go do something else." And my leadership also acknowledged that. So there's always that, there's that kind of uh yeah, I
Empathy.
don't know what I'm saying, but there's always that kind of thing that, where you think the bad guy is not so much the bad guy when they really are.
Yeah, Cass said empathy.
Is that what?
Maybe empathy, but no, you build relationships with humans no matter where you're at. You could be
Yeah.
at the best job in the world or the worst job in the world. You build relationships. And I think going back to where you want to go with this, Cass, I think you're right. Is we don't allow any of that. We don't even allow them a chance to empathize with the worst of the worst, which we will send to Alcatraz. And look, everyone's going, Trump's trolling. Is Trump trolling? Trump trolls on everything. Does
Yeah.
that mean it's not going to happen? I couldn't answer that to you. It could totally happen. It could also never happen. I think, again, it sends the strongest message that Trump wants law and order, that he wants it restored in America, and he's willing to float ideas around. This idea is pissing off all the liberals, which is funny, and it's pissing off the fiscal conservatives, which I say, okay, you're just in that. It would cost a ton of money. I also say if you voted for Trump the first time, maybe the second time, if you haven't learned your lesson, Trump spends money like a drunken sailor.
Yeah.
Trump is not a fiscal conservative. He is a blue dog Democrat who ran as a Republican 3 times and won twice. What are you crying about? You knew
Yeah.
this when you voted for him.
Yeah.
That's one of those things when people go, "Are you happy with everything Trump's done?" No, I'm not. And they asked me. I said, because he's a Democrat, he spends money. Oh, he's a Republican. No, he's a Democrat. He's just the same Democrat he was in the 80s and 90s that he is today. The only difference is he's got the name Republican on it because the Democrat Party has lost all sense of anything sane. Sanity is out the window now, and so he's who we voted for, and I've told that to people, and again, I tell people, I will say it here again, I am not a Republican. I was for a very brief period of time a Republican in California for that reason. The Republican Party has gone to another different evil side in California, but we'll talk about that later. But California, I'm no longer a Republican. I don't know if I told you that, Paul. I was, and now I'm not. So hopefully we can still hang out. But I'm still the same guy that I was before. Trump is still the only Democrat or Republican that I have ever voted for in a presidential election. And I voted in, I missed one election because of my job. and I voted since what 91, 92 when I voted for Ross Perot. So I'll stick by that. And he spends money.
Oh, my favorite midget, Ross Perot, dude. Oh my God, my favorite fucking midget.
But
Listen,
he
I
said,
worked for DynCorp for years and years, and Steve Cannon, who was the CEO of DynCorp, was close golf buddies with Perot. And so out here in Texas, there's what is Alliance, which is Northwest Fort Worth. And Alliance is probably 20,000 acres owned by Perot. And so I'll give you an example. When Katrina hit, Perot owned 7 of the 11 hospitals in New Orleans. And he called DynCorp and he said, I need security at my hospitals. So Steve Cannon reached out to me and said, put a team together. I need you to go to New Orleans. And so the premise being there's enough radiation in several MRI machines that could make a dirty bomb.
yeah,
So I took about 35 guys. We traveled on Perot's Falcon, his private Falcon jet, and went to Baton Rouge. Once we got to Baton Rouge, Perot had about 15 or 20 Ford Expeditions ready for us. And we deployed down to New Orleans to take hold and secure all of his hospitals down there. It was both the worst thing I'd ever done and the best thing I'd ever done. We really had a ball and stuff, but so we were literally going floor by floor through every hospital in a in an active deployment, going room by room because there were bad guys in the hospital. And we kept coming up against all these dead bodies that were wrapped in blankets and had a little piece of paper, tagged to them. And these are the folks that didn't get evacuated. Kess, I was like, are you kidding me? We got to this one hospital in the Ninth Ward, which is at Shittsville in New Orleans. And we got to the mezzanine, and there was a sign on these double doors that said, do not enter. And I'm like, well, that doesn't apply to us. We've got to search and clear the entire thing. And my number two, he's like, no, boss, that says do not enter. I would recommend we do not enter. And we did. We opened those doors, and there were 108 bodies wrapped up inside this mezzanine that was a chapel. It was like the prayer area. 108 bodies, Kess, that were wrapped up there, and I was like, okay, everybody back out. Let's close the doors and put a zip tie on it.
So Paul, you said this was an X-ray area. Like, is this like 1890s X-ray, or is this modern X-ray, at least post 1960s, where they're using uranium that's about the size of an aspirin?
Yeah. No, the MRIs were mostly modern era MRIs that
So
had.
what? Like that's not enough radiation to do that. What the hell was going on in that building?
So if there were two or three of them in the building or four, that was enough so that if bad guys who had technological ability could capture that and make a dirty bomb out of it.
Okay.
So we were like, okay, here's this one really great uh, hospital that Perot runs that's in a really ritzy part of New Orleans, right? I'd I'd drop one or two guys there, but down in the ninth ward where they had, the beat up piece of shit hospital that was built in 1958, and that kind of stuff. I'd put four or five guys there because they had three or four MRI machines in their facility that we were trying to protect. And we did that for about almost 60 days before the government showed up and said, "Stand down, boys, we got this." It was unbelievable. I've got, I don't know why I kept them, but I've got hundreds of photos of people that they just abandoned. And
We we'll talk about this more offline, but we could use my ability with iMovie and our ability to voice over that. We could do something like an offline podcast that we post later, Paul, with
you
those
know what was
photos.
the you know what was the worst thing, Sean? And this is bad. I'm not saying it's not bad. It was terrible. We found all these bodies all over every hospital. Every single hospital where they abandoned these people that they designated as beyond help. Well, well,
Whoa!
yeah,
Wait a minute. Does this not remind you of the Fauci era?
absolutely. Yeah, that's the point I was going to make. But the other point was we would land our helicopter on top of a parking garage next to the hospital, right? And we would deploy out of there. And what fucked my mind up beyond anything was there was floor after floor after floor in the parking garage of animals, dogs, cats, puppies, tied to their owner's vehicle with a bunch of water and a bunch of food where they had evacuated, but they took their second vehicle or whatever, took it to the parking garage and tied their goddamn pet.
Jesus.
They
Yeah, that's
tied their goddamn pet to the bumper of the fucking vehicle with a little bit of food, a little bit of water. We're trying to search the hospital for bad guys, right? Because we think there's people in there gonna take oxycodone and you know what I mean, hit all the pharmacies and stuff. So that was our primary mission. But all of the helipads were on the top of the parking garage, not on top of the hospital. So you had to land on the parking garage and then make your way over to the hospital, and then you get going, and how they angle down back and forth. We're like 150 dogs, cats, everything just tied to their vehicles. I, I was like, what the fuck is this? I mean, we even called back to headquarters and said, what are we supposed to do with this? We can't leave these puppies. What are we supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when uh, Oprah Winfrey and McConaughey and all these guys showed up with this fucking animal rescue shit, and it was just a fucking circus. But it just cut my heart out. Seeing how how fucked up are you that you leave your fucking Labrador, who is the most awesome pet ever,
It's the only
totally,
thing that's ever loved you
only
completely.
thing that's ever loved you, and you take your little piece of shit second car and you tie that motherfucker off to the bumper and you drive off and leave him in a parking garage. And I'm talking 7 parking garages, hundreds of animals on each parking garage. I'm not talking about 15 or 20. I'm talking about, yeah. And let me tell you something. You know what sticks in my heart is the water was up to the 4th level, and there's fucking, you know, puppies floating and shit, that were on the 2nd level, and
Jesus.
you know what I mean?
I
I,
do.
dude, there's just no, there's no justification for that, man.
The people who did that are the people I want to see to go to Alcatraz.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Like, I don't think they
100%.
deserve Club Gitmo. I don't
Yeah.
think they deserve Seacot.
Nope.
I think they deserve to go to Alcatraz as it stands. Now that it makes more sense to me because of what Kess was saying. No, just clean the paint up, put new paint on it,
Yeah.
clean all the stuff. Leave it as it stands as
Yep.
a federal penitentiary.
Yep.
And that's it. And it should be worse than Seacot. It should be worse than
Oh,
Gitmo.
100. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Club Gitmo and Rush always made fun of that. Club Gitmo was a resort for these terrorists we locked up there. It really was. I think Alcatraz, whether it comes back, Trump's a troll. I really think if Alcatraz comes back, it should be for people who do that shit. And
Right.
Fauci, I'm talking about you. What? Really? The Beagles?
Yeah.
The hundreds of millions of people that
Yeah.
you
Yep.
created a bioweapon against?
Yep.
That's the type of people I want to see locked in Alcatraz. Kess, you got something going out the door? Or are we going to close it out?
No, I got.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, what a
I love
goober! You have a goober.
The this is my border collie. She's a 55-pound lapdog.
Oh
I
my
love
God.
it.
Oh my
I
God.
absolutely love it. Man,
So
how
we had,
cool is
we had
that?
her wanting in the door, and then my wife's multi poo. Um, that's a
Multi-poo?
it's a multi poo. It's a Maltese, not a multi. Uh,
Maltese and a poodle, right?
yeah, it's a Maltese and a poodle. But I want to. She's kind of long and almost like a wiener dog, but she doesn't have a wiener dog kind of attitude. She's not nippy like that. But she plays with my dog because she thinks she's 55 pounds too, but she's not. She's only like 10 pounds.
Yeah, Paul's got a couple of dogs that chase his neighbor's cattle, even when
Yep.
they're not supposed to chase his
Yeah,
neighbor's
they bring them
cattle.
in when they're supposed to be out. Yeah.
They're just out there like, fuck, I gotta work, bro. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
I got it. Yeah,
You
something's
didn't
got to
give
go
me
on, man.
work. You didn't give me any work, so I wouldn't find my own work. So American. So American. Listen, brothers. Thanks for joining me. You're gonna have to check out the opening of this because I explained what Cinco de Mayo was, and what it actually means. Check it out later. Let's close this one out. Hey, Paul, I got a new photo for the closeout. Check it out. What, Cass? Paul's coughing his ass off.
I know. As soon as it went dark, does he take it?
I mean, who knows? I mean, are you going surfing tomorrow?
Who?
You, Cass.
No, I don't think so.
Have a good night, everybody.
No surf. Night.